Hey, I got a new microphone. Hopefully this helps. I'm going to try to use it. Sometimes I forget. I'm just recording with a phone, so please excuse my audio and let me know what you think. If this made a big improvement, that'd be great. I want to make my videos better and need feedback to do so. So just let me know what you think, what I can improve on next. In this one, actually in the last one, I think I said that we were going to start working on the back slats, but I actually want to start working on doing the glue up of the stretchers. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and just glue the tenons into the stretcher side. And then next time, we're going to trim some of them down because, as you remember, in the dry assemblies, some of the tenons were interacting with one another, and we'll need to account for that. So if we glue them in and make them look like traditional mortise and tenons first, that will help us know exactly how they're going to fit in the final product, and we can make the adjustments at that point. All right, I'm going to show you some of my secret weapons for gluing up half of a domino setup. So I've got my tenons ready. I need 8 of them, 2 for each of these sticks. And I want some blue tape. So this is going to be just my temporary glue pad, basically, that I can use to dispense my glue onto and not get it on my bench. You don't have to do this, but this is sometimes convenient because I know that I won't damage my bench with glue. And then I've got my cordless 23 gauge pin nailers. So when these are actually in the wood, they are almost invisible. And I like to use Type Bond 3, especially with walnut. It just matches really well, and it's the strongest one around. Not that it really matters too much. And last but not least, I like to use popsicle sticks. So these make good glue spreaders that I can cheaply throw away. So I'm going to put some glue in the mortise, and I like to get it on every part inside that I can see, and then I can just set my glue spreader down on that, and if I need more, I can usually go back and get some extra that has dripped off. So now I'm going to put just a dab on the domino side, slide it on in there, and make sure that there's plenty, and it's got excessive squeeze out at this point. So I'm going to get some paper towel and wipe off some of this excess. I really don't want excess because it will inhibit the other side of the domino. So I'm going to squeeze that in there as far as I can and wipe off the excess. And this will actually act a little bit like sizing on that end grain, but I don't want it on the edge grain because it'll mess with the finish. And now I'm just going to press that in there with my finger and tack it in place. And these are about 3/4 of an inch, so they don't go anywhere close to the full depth of the thing, but that's in there and keeps it in place until that glue dries, and it's pretty much invisible. Like, you can hardly see it with your eyes, much less on the camera. So that's one done, and I don't have to clamp anything up. So on to the next one. And I'm going to use a little bit less glue to try to avoid that squeeze out. Set my stick down. I think what I'll do is I'll stick my tenon in there and use that squeeze out instead of putting more on the tenon. Okay, that is thoroughly coated. Everything's soggy on the inside. I'll press that in there firmly and tack it. Okay. And wipe away the excess. So the next one still needs even less glue, just because I don't want any of that squeeze out there. But it's pretty clean and effective. So that's one of my sticks done. And I put even less glue this time. So spread it around. Stick the tenon in. So that was not quite enough. So I'm going to use some of this excess that I've got. And back in it goes. And if you alternate the sides, it kind of helps balance the glue on both sides. And tack and wipe. Wipe. Glue. tiny bit more. There we go. Halfway done. This one's extra tight. And those grooves that I put on my tenon stock are filling up with glue, so I think that those are effective for containing and spreading out some of the spill out. That one's nice and tight. It probably could hold in place without the tack, but I like having it. Ready, set, go. I'll give you a good close-up of this. And here's my pinhole. Once it's sanded, I think that will just completely disappear, but these are on the inside, and they are really insignificant. Okay. I lost a sliver of my popsicle stick in there. So I'll fish that out before I stick the tenon in. Let me show you what these tenons look like. So on their own, I'm of course getting some on the end when I put it all the way in there. But those little grooves we got are drinking up some of that glue and distributing it. But I do like to actually cover every bit of the surface area of the parts that are going to be touching. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm taking my excess glue and actually painting it on every surface. Last one. And then wipe away the excess. And at this point, it's still good to leave these alone until they've actually dried. But now I can just take my paint tape and peel it up and roll it away. And that just prevents me from having to stock something like cups in the shop. I already keep tape, so it's something less I have to do. But here's one of the end tenons, so nice and clean and all walnut. So everything's the same strength. And now after these dry up a little bit, we'll be ready for a dry assembly. So at this point, I want to go ahead and take the moment to do my tapers on my front legs. So let's set these aside. And I've got about 3 inches of mating surface, or 2 inches of mating surface on these front legs where the tenons need to sit. So I'm going to go ahead and go up to 2.5 inches. And I'll do 1 and I'll make it into a template. So 2.5 inches, that way I'm not interfering with my joinery surface. And then for the foot, I'm going to do 1.25 inches to maintain some thickness for strength. Actually, let's go ahead and go down to 1.125. And then I'll just get my level and connect the dots. And note that this is an outside taper, or an inside taper, so that this is the outside will still be square, and we'll shape it up with the spoke shave a little bit, but this will lighten up the look and bring the bottom down a little bit thinner. And then after I cut this one, we're going to do the other side. So let's see. I'll go ahead and mark this side on the next face as well, because hopefully we don't touch it. Alright, so here's my legs, and this is kind of how this one was oriented before we cut it, and I had some of that surface checking that was really concerning, and I was hoping that I was able to get under it, and it looks like I did down here. I've got a little bit more right here, but I think the spoke shave can take care of that, and it doesn't look very deep, so I think we'll be okay. And this one just turned out perfect, so got a couple little holes, but they're not deep or in the concerning spots. We'll be taking a little bit more thickness down with the spoke shave, and also kind of rounding these corners off to make them a little bit more touchable without hurting yourself. So next up, I'm going to get the spoke shave out and just fair these down. Actually, I might even do the jack plane to show it both ways. Here's the jack plane method. I like to put it in my little tail vise-ish situation here with dogs. Take the jack plane, make sure it's taking a cut. Wax the bottom with my paraffin wax. And then it shouldn't take much at first. I have kind of a coarse cut going right now, so I might pull it back as we get closer to the final dimension, just if it starts tearing out. So you might be able to see here, this is one that I haven't touched yet, and this one is one that I've started pulling down. I can show you in the light. I've got these smooth shiny spots here, smooth shiny spot here, and then the bandsaw marks, and so once I get kind of a continuous plane, I'll be happy. One other thing of note is that I still have my joinery marks here, so this first 2 inches is where I want clear for the stretchers to mate. At 2.5 inches, so I have a 1/2 inch buffer here, is kind of my try not to cross it line, but it's okay if I do. Some of this I still want to round the corners off, so I'm still going to hit this with a spoke shave, even if I take it most of the way with the jack plane. But that made pretty quick work of it. I still have that little bit of a hole there that's probably still okay, but not the prettiest. Okay, so I've got 80–90% of this done with the jack plane. So I'll finish it off with the spoke shave after I do the other side. I think this cut's a little bit better. Go ahead and re-wax a little bit. The good thing is, if this grain was continuous, for the most part, when the leg was straight, because we tapered it off, if I plane it this direction, it should basically always be downhill. So I shouldn't have any tear out. Okay, and likewise, I have taken this 80–90% of the way. I just have a couple of rough spots right there. So I'm going to do the other leg. And this piece actually seems to have a little bit of a curly grain to it, so I am getting a little bit of reverse, but it's still not too bad. But I think this one's pretty close. Last side, jack plane. Okay. And again, took it almost all the way there. So now let me clean my bench, and we'll get to spoke shaving. So from here, I'm just going to use my spoke shave again to fair the surface and make sure I get all of the bandsaw marks off, and I'm also going to pillow these edges. So I like to work from the end and work my way back. I'm going to start with some light pillowing. It's generally a good idea to skew. I'm taking a fairly light pass. I'll show you my final pieces. You can see the shine the whole way up. So the whole thing's planed, and I also have taken these corners down. And it's always good to feel the whole way up and make sure that there's no sharp spots. Exception to that is that I do have sharp spots up here near where the mating surfaces are, but I'll take care of that on the inside part. All right, and then just need to deal with this side. Again, starting from the end, taking off the corners. got the edges chamfered or rounded over. Then I'll start working myself to the face, kind of pillowing it out as I go. So I'm not going flat across like this. I'm actually starting at that 45 degree and then rolling it over until I basically meet that whole surface. Just canted, a little more canted over, starting to flatten out. And that's it. So again, starting at that 45 like this, and you can tell I'm skewing the blade too. And that helps a little bit with tear out and engaging the wood. And then you can take it from this 45 and then slowly roll it over, pass by pass. Still skewing the blade a little bit, but I'm slowly flattening out until I engage the entire piece. And then I can get one pass that covers the whole thing. Let's take a look. Alright, that one's effectively done. But I do have some sharp points that I'm going to go back and remove. I haven't touched this outside face, so that's going to be my focal point. Start like this. So I'm just going to give this a tiny touch up right here. And then I'm going to give it a little chamfer at the top here. Okay, now I'm going to flip it around and make sure I've got soft edges on everything else. So. And then same thing down here, I'm going to just give it a light chamfer. And what this does is when I have the chair sitting on the floor, and if somebody scoots it and one of these fibers catches, the chamfer means that the fiber that catches isn't on the outside surface where it'll split off. It's on the inside where the outside surface actually holds it down and protects it. So this should protect the bottom of the leg from severing when the chair is actually in use. So it's not just decorative, it's actually functional. There's my chamfer. It's pretty minimal, but you can see it in the light there. And now I'm going to give it the feel test and make sure I don't have any surfaces that are uncomfortable. I do have some saw blade marks there, so I am going to give this a little bit of a once over with a smoothing plane real quick, just to knock that surface down. I'm going to test it again to make sure I didn't add a sharp surface by doing so, but here's my surface now. Nice and smooth and shiny, and it's also doesn't have any overly sharp corners, so that's important for later. And now I just need to do the other piece that also has those bandsaw marks, so let me get into that here.